Hello, and welcome back to the Write Your Path podcast. My name is Lolly Spindler. I'm a writer, editor, book doula, and liberation coach. And today I wanted to talk about finding peace in the pause. I've talked a lot on the podcast about my mission to divorce value from productivity. And what I mean by that is within a capitalistic structure, we are taught from a very young age that to have value as a human being in this type of society, we must be productive. We must add something in order to be of value. And so the past few years, I've been actively trying to undo this because we are valuable regardless of what we produce. Just by the fact of being human beings existing on this plane in this iteration of reality, we are valuable. And so, as I've talked about before, we're born into this house, right? This house that we did not choose, that is made up of the culture, the language, the family of origin that are just kind of given to us when we are born into this existence. And so a lot of the work is really undoing all of the conditioning of this house that we're put in. And one of those huge conditionings within a capitalistic societal structure is undoing this. We must be productive to be valuable, right? Because living in capitalism, that is what capitalism is all about. So I have been really within this work trying to be okay with rest and finding peace in the pause. So as a creative, there are moments where you have like these bursts of imagination and creativity, and you just like have to get this out of you, right? Something is calling you, it wants to be birthed by you. And so, you're writing all the time, or you're painting, or you're whatever your call is creatively. You just have these moments of flow where you're just like being called to birth these things into existence. But then there are these other times where you might not have that burst of, imagination or creativity, or be having all of these amazing ideas, and you might feel like you are less than, that you are not being as valuable because you are not producing or you are not being creative. And I just want you to know that you are just as valuable whether you are having those bursts of creativity or not, because there is so much peace in the pause. There is so much to be gained from stopping and from letting our bodies assimilate all that we have done. So a lot of times, if I look at just my personal experience as a kid, and then being in middle and high school, and I had to be the straight A student, and I was such a perfectionist, and I had to do all the extracurriculars, and so that I could get into the college I wanted to get into. And then when I got into college, I also founded the Women's Center, and I was in all of these groups, in a sorority and all this stuff, and I just filled my time with doing. And I never just sat with myself and asked myself what I needed, what my body needed to assimilate, what my mind needed to assimilate, what my spirit needed to assimilate. That never even crossed my mind because I was always taught to just do. And once you're able to take a step back and see things a little more objectively and realize you're doing for doing's sake, you're able to tap into something much deeper, which can inform your action with much more efficiency and much more intention. So what I mean by this is, if you take the time to stop and meditate, or just rest for a day, or just listen to your body. For example, I normally work out every single day because I just am an incredibly fiery, energetic human. And yesterday I was just so exhausted. I felt like somebody was just sucking my energy from me. And so I decided, I was I'm not working out tomorrow because my body is saying, girl, you need to chill. Just give us a day. And so it's just becoming in tune with not just what your body is saying, which is incredibly important because a lot of us are very disconnected from our bodies, but what our mind is trying to tell us too. Because if our mind is having this list of gotta keep doing that, you have to be like, hey, listen, mind, like, what's really going on here? Like, why are you trying to distract me? Like, are you trying to distract me from something I should be focusing on? Because sometimes those very symptoms of the mind can help you point you to what you need to actually focus on, because the mind is incredible at distracting us. The monkey mind, as we say in the yoga world. And if you haven't listened to my episode on Vipassana yet, I will link to that. But also listening to what the spirit needs. So we are eternal souls, spirits that in this iteration are in this body, in this house that we're born into, right? So our spirit has a ton of wisdom just waiting to be tapped into. But by being in this meat suit, by being in this body, in this matrix, in this reality we're living in, we become so identified with this reality, with our homes, with our families, with our cultures, with wherever we're living, with our body, with, right, that we forget that we have this eternal wisdom we can tap into at any time. But that requires us to be still, to be intentional, to realize when our mind is trying to distract us, and to take the time to pause. So, for example, I'll just give an example from what I've been going through recently. With Kreia Content Marketing, my first business that's now 12 years old, which is insane. My baby is 12. It'll be an adolescent, a teenager next year. I always had multiple clients every day, knew like, okay, I have to write this many blog posts, this many emails, this many social media posts, blah, 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 blah. And then I started my second business, Write Your Path Coaching. And then I was like, okay, I have to do like X amount of events and speaking gigs and run this many programs and find this many clients. And I realized I was creating more doing for myself, and I was not taking my own medicine, right? And so this year, at the beginning of the year, I had a couple book clients early on in the year. And so I was excited to work on these two ladies' books. And so I was like, great, I got my first two book clients for the year. I'm excited to focus on that. Those both fell through. I launched The Right to Heal earlier in the year and had a lot of interest, but only one person actually signed up. Hi, Jordan, if you're listening. And so I was like, okay, well, that's not going to work out. I will launch it again later this year if anybody is interested. I think I'm going to do it one more time because I have had some more interest. So hopefully people actually sign up. People will sign up this time. We're manifesting it because I would like to run it again. It's a beautiful program. And then Jordan, you can actually do it. So that fell through. And like things were just not happening the way I had imagined they would be happening. You know, as end of 2025, I'm like putting on my goals for the next year, revenue goals, like how many things I want to do, blah, 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 blah. And then things were not going to plan. And I was like, okay, universe. At first I was very anxious, especially around money. And I was like, oh my God, I had like these revenue targets. Now I'm not going to hit them. And da, da, da. And then I realized like, I am lucky enough that through Kreia Content Marketing, I have a passive income stream through my contract. So if you are a freelancer and you don't have a contract in place, I highly recommend getting one in place with all of your clients ASAP. I have a free contract on my website. I will link to it for anybody who needs to protect themselves and their businesses. And through that contract, I have a late payment fee baked in there. It's like 2% a month, which is actually probably lower than California's minimum now. But anyways, so I have a client who's like 17 months late on payments. And because he's so far behind, it's now in the tens of thousands of dollars. And So we came up with a payment plan where he pays me $5K a month to try to catch up. He's never going to catch up. He's going to be paying me this for eternity, basically, which is great. I just call him my sugar daddy now. Uh, and it's funny because, I really do believe we can have whatever we want. This reality is a playpen, and if we have the right intention and know what we want and know our goals and work towards those goals with efficient action, we will attain them. So earlier, let me think about this. I would say when I was doing Create content marketing, I still am, but when I was doing that full time and I didn't have my second business and I was I was like, you know what? I would love to create a source of passive income for myself, which is why I started the 6 Fig Freelance Writer, which is my online digital course. And I was like, I want to create a passive income source for myself, but I also want to help other freelancers, especially freelance writers, be able to live the life of freedom that I am now lucky enough to live. And so that's how Write Your Path coaching became a business, was literally me wanting to help other freelance writers and wanting to create a source of passive income. And so starting this digital course, and then from there, that course evolved into me becoming a coach and me starting a second business, which is now Write Your Path coaching, which includes the Right to Heal, my book doula services, the 6 Fig Freelance Writer, and many other things that will come in the future, right? So it's funny because I put this intention out into the universe, I want this stream of passive income, thinking that the 6 Fig Freelance Writer, my digital course, would be the key to that. And it turns out the universe said, yes, of course, here is your source of passive income. But it ended up being from late payment fees from my first business, one of my clients from my first business, through the contract that I will share in the show notes. So, the universe does respond to what you want. 100%, it might not be in the form that you think it will show up as, but if you put that intention out there and you work towards it, it will show up for you. My story is a perfect example of that happening. So, back to me at the beginning of this year, having all of this anxiety around my business is not producing money that I thought they would be producing. I was like, Lolly, you have what you asked for from the universe. You have this stream of passive income. It didn't come in the format that you thought it would, but it came, and you're taken care of. So stop stressing. Your situation isn't going to change if you stress and have anxiety around it or not. So you get to choose whether you're still going to be stressed and be anxious about it, or if you're just going to be like, you know what, it is what it is. Universe is taking care of me. Universe has always taken care of me and always will take care of me. So I'm not going to stress about it anymore. So guess what? I stopped stressing about it. And of course, I'm still taking action toward my goals. I'm still working on my businesses. I'm still refining. I'm still trying to figure out the best way to position myself in the work I do. And I think as our businesses evolve, that's always something we'll be doing. It's just, especially with the rate of change in our current society and culture, you kind of have to always be changing and evolving in order to survive. So it's a good thing. But I got to a place where I was like, you know what? I'm taken care of. And if I am not producing money or whatever it is that I think I need, I'm still taken care of. So why am I freaking out and being so anxious about that? This is a season of rest. This is a season of you to chill, reassess, redirect your energy if you need to, and prepare for what's to come, because intuitively, I know that next year, soon, calendar years, but within the next 12 months, I will be called to something and my life will change, and there will be a lot of movement in order to serve my highest purpose. And I know that's coming. I can feel it. And so I've been taking this time to be like, wow, I don't know when I'm going to get this period of rest again, So I am going to find peace in the pause and enjoy this time of rooting down, of grounding, of being in my home, of being in my community, of getting to be in one place without moving all the time, and having my energy not be so dispersed, not feeling like I have to be doing, being productive, and just getting to be. This has really been my year of just being. And it's been really rejuvenating. It's been really just like a apapacho, like a warm hug to my soul, because I'm now getting to practice what I preach, so to speak. And so, I mean, even if things don't live up to your expectation, or even if you were hoping for something, just know those things are coming in their own due time. Sometimes you have to sit and chill and be patient in order for those things to arrive. I love this analogy I learned from singing. Sometimes in order to hit the high notes that you might not be as comfortable with, you really have to ground down in order to go up. You really have, like, if you know a high note is coming, you literally focus your energy like on your root chakra, on your connection to the earth, in order to basically think of like a pogo stick, right? In order for a pogo stick to go up, it has to really root down into the ground. And so that's how I think of it when I'm like, ooh, a high note is coming. I literally push my force down in order to go up. And guess what? It works. And so that's really what these seasons of pause are. It's you grounding down in order to be able to fulfill your highest calling. Another beautiful analogy is, if you think of a tree is always growing in two directions, right? It has a root system that in somewhat mirrors the branches that you can see above ground. And so a tree has to, even before it can grow all those beautiful branches and leaves and flowers or fruit, it has to do this deep underground work under the soil that nobody sees before it can break through the surface and be seen and reach the heights that it needs to reach to get sunlight, to produce fruit, to produce flowers. So if you think of yourself as a tree and you feel that calling, you know there's a creative project, a business, you want to start, a book you want to write, and you feel called to do that. Sometimes the work starts quietly, it starts slowly, it starts underground, because you're building that network that no one sees. You're doing the internal work that no one sees so that you're able to break through the ground and be seen, and you're able to hold what being seen calls for. Because when you do start that business, when you do write that book, when you do launch that creative project, you will be called on to be seen in ways you've never been seen before. You will have to be more vulnerable. You will have to heal your visibility wounds. You will be challenged in so many ways, which is why this season of rest, your season of pause before breaking through, is so important. So if you are in one of those seasons where you feel like there's not as much movement as you would like, there's not as much recognition as you would like, there's not as many clients as you would like, take the pressure off yourself. Nothing in nature blooms year round, year after year. After all, right? We're part of the ecosystem of the world. You're not supposed to be doing all the time, every day, every year. You need those moments, those months, sometimes those years of pause and reflection and deep knowing and deep inner work, so that you can answer that intuitive call that you're feeling. You can be the person that you know you are meant to be. So I just want to offer this reflection and this encouragement if you do find yourself in that space, because it can feel very lonely. It can feel disheartening, especially if no one in your immediate circle, your friend circle, your community, your family really understands this notion, right? It can feel very lonely. So just know you're not alone, and also know you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You are that tree growing that deep, deep root system before you're going to break through ground and produce beautiful flowers and beautiful fruit. So thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate your subscribes, comments, and if you can share this with someone you think would enjoy it, that would be very helpful. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next week. Ciao.